in this case with serif, so like a Times New Roman. This is basically the breakdown. Now obviously this does not look like a good letter R, you would never type with this, but the main principles are there, right? We've got 1, 2, 3 little serifs, right? And then minus those serifs, we've got just a sans serif R, right? So then you think about what makes up this basic letter R. Well, we've got this part here, kind of the Humpty Hump, right? We've got kind of the spine, and then we've got this little foot, right? So when you break everything down, we've got 3 serifs, okay? And we've got 3 pieces that make up our letter R, right? Again, this is way more methodical than you'll ever actually do. Whenever you're doing your actual drawing, you're not going to sit here and break everything down. You'll just be able to visually see it. But I'm taking it slow so it's obvious. So, out of these 3, we're going to start here, because in order to put serifs, we have to have something to put serifs on, right? So we're going to start here. Now, out of these 3 pieces, we've got the tall vertical, this kind of diagonal line, and then we've got the Humpty Hump, right? Out of those 3, I don't know about you, personally, the easiest one is this tall vertical. He's just big, tall square. So I'm going to literally, and again, I would use a ruler or something, but I'm going to literally just draw a tall vertical line, and then I'm going to turn that line into a shape, or a 2-dimensional square, rectangle. Again, a little bit sketchy, a little bit sketchy, but that's okay, we're not using a ruler right now. Right? So, part 1 of our R, just this tall rectangle. Now remember, there are 6 pieces to our entire letter R. You've got 1 down and it's perfect. That's 1 out of 6. So far, we're failing. But that's okay, we're gonna get it up there. Alright, next part, we've got Humpty Hump, and we've got diagonal. Now again, to me personally, I see that diagonal as an easier slice, but here's the problem. What am I diagonaling to, right? I don't really know where I'm going, right? So I can do a couple different things. If I really, really wanted to do my diagonal, I could figure out where my diagonal kind of connects to, and it looks like it goes all the way up to this top point right here, right? So I can do that. I could also wait and do the Humpty Hump and then connect my diagonal, but I don't like it, so we're going to go right here. So if you look at your square, your tall rectangle guy, I've got these 2 points right here. I'm going to use those 2 points to make my foot. And again, you totally use a ruler in the future. We're just sketching for right now. Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So now we got like a italicized capital letter A or something. Now you might say to yourself, how far down do I take it? How do I cut it off? All that kind of junk, right? Literally, again, imagine you have a ruler and just draw a horizontal line because it's sitting on the same ground plane. And now you've got this little bit of a kind of diagonal tapered cut. Cool? Cool? So far, so good, right? Again, we're using basic shapes, stuff we already know. We're just putting them in the right place, the right orientation. All right, next step. We've got our Humpty Hump right here, right? Now, again, let's break that Humpty Hump down. This is all in our heads, of course, but you think about what this is, this shape. Right? It's kind of like a letter D or something, but even better yet, it's kind of like there's a circle right in here, and then from that circle, we've got 2 straight lines. All right, so we've got a basic circle right here, and we've got 2 horizontal lines that kind of jet off from it, right? And that would give us kind of that Humpty Hump look, right? Make sense? So what we're going to do is start with what we know. Always start with what you know. I don't know exactly how far down it's going to go. I don't know that yet. I don't really know how wide it's going to go yet, but I do know where it's going to start, and it's going to start right at this top line. So I'm going to make a little kind of rectangle shape. And I'm going to try and make it the same thickness as my other bars. I'm not going to worry about ending it because I'm going to put a circle right there. Now, I'm going to think about for my next part, this bottom line, because again, that I can figure out. If I look at my letter R, if you look here, there's a little bit of a gap between these two legs, right? So I want to make sure that I kind of mimic that gap, and that's going to help me figure out how far down to go. So again, I'm going to say, kind of guesstimate right about here-ish. That would give me a pretty good gap right there. Again, try to match the scale, try to match the width of the other bars as well. Not really worried about cutting it off, because again, we're going to put a big circle there in a second. Cool. Again, take your time. In the future, you'd definitely use a ruler, and that would make this a whole lot easier, because again, like the whole width thing, you would just say like, oh, it's a ½ an inch, and you just make sure they're all ½ an inch. It would take you like 3 seconds and make it really, really quick and good. All right. So for the next step, to finish off this little Humpty Hump, we want to put some circles in there, right? So how tall is the circle? Well, the diameter of the circle is going to be this tall, right? And then how wide? Well, we want to figure out where is the length. Where is the edge of that circle? So all I'm going to do is this. Figure out where the edge of this guy is, right? And kind of take him straight up. So that's going to tell me the edge of the circle is here, top is here, bottom is here, and that will kind of allow me to kind of freehand in a circle. Again, lightly sketch it. We're drawing right over top of everything else. And if it's not perfect, again, no one cares. Again, just lightly sketch it in. If you're trying to draw the perfect circle, it will never happen. Please, lightly sketch, 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 and it will appear. Okay. So, we've got our weird italic letter A, we've got a funny italic letter F, and a weird circle in the middle of nowhere. Right? Alright. So the last step to get our sans serif letter R is to give this circle kind of a donut hole. So think about like a Target logo or something. If you need to, think about where that center point of that circle is, and almost make kind of a little radius around that, or you can just kind of freehand it. The key is this. Notice that the height of my circle connects to these bars. Right? It fits right inside of there. Alright, so at this point, I'm just going to highlight using a red colored pencil real quick. But at this point what I've got is basically a sans serif, no feeties, letter R. Right? There's that little leg in there, little crotchal region. Kind of comes around. This kind of comes up, following the edge of that circle. Right? I'm going to use the front part of this circle, and I'm going to take it back using these lines. And that'll give me a pretty solid looking letter R. Now again, it's totally not perfect, we're not using a ruler here, that's okay, but that should give you a pretty blocked in looking letter R. So the last step, we got 3 very quick things to do, are these little serifs to give it a more Times New Roman kind of serif-y look, right? Serifs seem a little complicated, but they're really, really not. And I'm going to show you why they're not. So we'll do this top one here first. He'll be the simplest to do right now. So all I'm going to do is extend out this arm. Just extending it out. Again, you can make it as long or wherever you want it to be. I'm going to cut mine off here-ish. Basically double the width of that bar. Now, depending on the type of the serif, some serifs are really, really thin. Some serifs are pretty fatty, boom batty. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a pretty thick serif on mine. I think they look cooler. So I'm going to take this idea of this little circle over here. I'm going to plug one in right about there. So I've got basically a little square, and stacked underneath of it is a little circle about the same height, about the same width. So the idea would be, whenever I go out, I'm going to go through and highlight here. The idea would be I could extend out this foot, give it that little serif, and then I'm going to follow the inside of this circle, make it kind of scoop into my letter R. See how I did that? So use that circle, basically use the negative space of that circle to give me that serif. I'm going to do the same thing to the bottom 2 feet. And again, just basically just adding on a little rectangle about the same width. Try to take it out, line these things up. Try to match that. Same thing as before, plug in little circles. And scoop. Now again, sometimes, like I said, you're going to find where serifs are much thinner, so maybe that circle is going to go inside of that square of the serif, and that's fine. That'll cause that scoop to just happen a little sooner, a little earlier on. Last little touch, we'll do one more on this side. And for this letter R, I think the serif is only coming outwards. Let me check real quick. Yeah. So he's only coming out. So we're going to kind of block him in, get him to be about the same height as his buddies. Same kind of width. And then plug in a little circle. I'm going to plug it in kind of toward the crack right here. And scoop it out. Now, depending on your font, obviously, it's going to look a lot different. Does it have serifs? Does it not have serifs? Maybe this R would come all the way out and match up with that little foot, which would mean I'd have to add on a little bit of extra to it. You want to think about your overall font and really look at how your font kind of breaks down into those basic shapes so that you can make it as crystal clear as possible. Now, some of you pick really elaborate font, and that is absolutely fine. You're going to have plenty of time to work on drawing it up. But it's the same basic principles as this guy, right? It's the same basic concept of having this kind of blocked in, broken down image that you then reconstruct. We thought about the letter R, we removed off the serifs, thought about the basic sans serif, what basic shapes do we use, broke it down, and then put it all back together again, right? Any questions with this way of thinking about a letter? So it's not that. Right? It's not that anymore. You're literally thinking about it as shape, as space. Okay? Make sense so far?